Hey everyone, welcome back to a recap of episode 2 of Daryl Dixon. Just got done watching it. Let's just hop right on in. So this week we are served with two timelines in the episode. I'm going to start off with just kind of talk about kind of the flashback because I think there's fewer scenes and it's a little bit easier to get through. The flashback is focused on Isabel's past, Sister Isabel, who we find just as the outbreak is about to happen. She's not a nun at this point, which is news to us. She is in a Paris nightclub, and she is doing drugs, stealing watches, not really in a good place. And then she kind of like, as she leaves the club, that's kind of when we get our first glimpse of like what it looked like in Paris as things were going down. And always exciting, like in like a zombie film, right? When you there's nothing quite like when the scene when the crap's hitting the fan and like you kind of get to see things kind of falling apart, especially in a big city. Just kind of makes it a little extra exciting as kind of the chaos ensues. And so she kind of gets picked up by this guy. I don't know if he's like her boyfriend or like who he is to her. There's some kind of quasi maybe romantic relationship. Not 100% sure. And something else I thought was interesting was they showed scars on her wrists. So I don't know if she like had attempted suicide or there was just more of like a self harm. Like she was not, she was going through it clearly kind of before the outbreak happened. But anyway, so she gets picked up, and then she goes to her. I don't know if it's her place, but it's her sister. She goes to get her sister to bring with them to get to safety and kind of on the road trip. Sister starts to get sick, and then she realizes that she's pregnant, and she's been pregnant for a few months, and she's been keeping this from her. And the guy wants to like say like, it's not a good situation. We can't take care of her in this condition, which I mean, we've seen in the series before. Pregnancy is hard. Pregnancy is hard without a zombie outbreak. Zombie outbreaks clearly not the great place, But he wants to just cut her off, and she's not going to abandon her sister. So she like, snatches his keys, which I like, kind of like the foreshadowing. She's kind of a good thief, so she takes his keys without him realizing, and they kind of go off together. Her sister's name is Lily, and so they're driving and they end up at the Abbey, where we first meet her. Well, not when we first meet her, but when we find out that when we meet her as a nun, that's where she's staying. And we find out that the sister was actually bitten in like a quick altercation just prior to arriving at the Abbey. And so she's giving birth, and it apparently turns out she's 7 months along. So I don't know if they had been on the road, because she said she was pregnant for a few months. So I don't know if I missed a little time jump in the flashback there, if she went from 3 months pregnant to 7 months pregnant, or she really lied and she was really 7 months pregnant. But she's giving birth and she dies in childbirth, and like, baby stuff always gets me. I don't know, and even before being a parent, like, just baby stuff is always just like, man. So she dies during childbirth, but and they get the baby through a C-section, and yeah, and then so we find out that this baby's Laurent, and that Isabel is actually his aunt, which I thought was a nice reveal. I didn't really, if there were hints in the first episode, they totally went over my head, but yeah, I thought it was a nice little reveal. It was very emotional. Like I said, child stuff, baby stuff always gets me. But yeah, no, beautiful, and I think it really encapsulates like really what I'm loving about this series, about the Daryl Dixon series, is like it is hyper. It's giving you those emotional moments that Walking Dead is known for, but it's also still a very focused story in these two episodes, because we see kind of in present day, kind of the theme of family is apparent, as the group leaves the Abbey. They stumble upon this like abandoned like orphanage, or this like it's a community of children, and this nurse who had been taking care of them. I think it was a preschool. Yeah, because I don't know if it was if this is just preschool in French, but the Simone Veil. I don't know if that just means preschool or that means something else. Probably should have looked it up. But yeah, so this nurse, I guess, who had been caring for them, is sick. So I had a baby monitor going on in the background. I'm not going to edit that out. I don't watch my son as I'm recording this, so apologize for baby noises. Anywho, so they stumble upon this preschool. Their nurse, who was caring for these kids, is sick, right? So, but yeah, so they stay the night, and then, Laurent is like having a hard time getting like fitting in with the kids. Daryl, what I loved is, so the kids, I guess they have this like bike powered TV, and they're watching like an old episode of Mork and Mindy, which he says he used to watch with his brother Merle. And yeah, and there's even a conversation he has with Lou, kind of the leader of the kids, about like family, and he wants to kind of get back to his group, and she says that, like, I think the nurse or whoever was caring for them would say, like, family is whoever you're with. So this whole idea of like chosen family too, and yeah, and I just really I love these parallels that we're getting, and this kind of antithesis to like Daryl's kind of typical MO of like the lone wolf, and that's kind of has been his like whole spiel, his whole shtick, like throughout the original Walking Dead series, is like, him forming these relationships and him like really relying on a group, and I think we're getting a nice little like capstone to that here, which is like really a continuation of that, as that this is like the true driving force of his character moving forward. But yeah, so they kind of get into this conversation about like there were this guy, the dragon. There were pictures of dragons that it's based on this like guy in a castle who, like, the kids went out for a raid. 2 of them didn't come back. Lou came back. Lou says they went out to get help. We find out that at least one of them did not survive that altercation. But yeah, so this guy is like hoarding all this supplies, this medicine. And so Daryl agrees to go with Lou to go get it back. And then to kind of keep Lou safe, he kind of locks her after they kind of get there. So he tackles it on his own. He starts to get shot at. He finds this boy who goes by the name of Hedgehog, which I thought was really cute. And yeah, so they capture this dragon, this guy, RJ, who's also, we find out he's American. He's got a family back in America that he's hoping to get back to. And Daryl tells him there's nothing there. They probably didn't make it. So they capture him. And then as they're like kind of going out, they like both fall down this moat where all the walkers are. And RJ gets eaten. And then the kids come and they save Daryl. So it's kind of a very kind of like little sojourn of like a side mission. But I think it really is just a nice, again, like parallel of like Daryl, like taking care of these kids, having a chosen family. Again, it's really kind of being like a driving force of his character. But yeah. And in the flashbacks too, kind of speaking of, we get the second one, Sylvie. I think her name's Sylvie. We see her as a kid. Yeah, so that's just nice to also see in the flashback, like, the early stages of that community. But yeah, so they come back, the supplies, they get back to the preschool. And by the time they get there, the nurse, the woman who had cared for them, had died. And then Lou kind of takes up the mantle of kind of being the primary caregiver for these kids. So it's kind of, again, sweet to see, and kind of stepping up and taking care of your chosen family. And you kind of see these little parallels between Lou and Daryl. And but yeah, and then really just kind of quickly before the episode ends, we get a shot of the main soldier, I forget his name, and he finds the map in the Abbey. He goes back to the Abbey after the shootout, so all the bodies are there, the nuns, the soldiers, and he sees the map of where they're heading. So conflict ensues. But yeah, I think overall solid second episode. Emotional, some good zombie action. So let me know what you thought in the comments below. And I will see you next week. Let us know what you're looking forward to. All right. See y'all next time.